Hey everyone, it's actually Jeb Bush, and welcome back to yet another episode of SoRare Steals. If this is your first time checking out SoRare Steals, in each of these videos, we pick a team in the NBA and we take a look at their roster on SoRare data, and we try to find players that we think are undervalued. Now, usually we determine this by picking some players that we think could get a massive increase in minutes and or usage, whether that's because of an injury or a trade or load management or a team trying to tank or whatever else that might be. We want to find these players and purchase them low so that way when they get that opportunity, we can either sell them and get our profits or play them in an optimal lineup and try to get a coveted prize. Now, before we take a look at this list, if you could just make sure to hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. It's something super easy you can do that actually really helps me out since I make these videos during my free time. Also, if you really like daily fantasy sports and the NBA and you don't have an NBA SoRare account and you want to join in on the fun, you can use the link right here or in the description below. That is my affiliate link that you can get 20 free common cards with in order to join the free common contests. Additionally, if you're really enjoying NBA SoRare and you want to purchase some limited cards and try to get some better prizes and control your lineup a bit more, when you purchase 5 limited cards on the live auction marketplace, you will get a 6th one airdrop to you for free, but that's only if you use my link in the description. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the SoRare Steals for the Los Angeles Clippers. All right, so as you can see, we have the Clippers roster pulled up on SoRare data. And the first thing I want to talk about is the unique situation that the Clippers are in. I don't think any team has this exact situation, which is why we want to approach this team a bit differently when it comes to SoRare. Now, we know that Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are both healthy and playing. However, there's been a lot of load management and just kind of a lot of caution around both of them. I think the Clippers just want to make sure that they're healthy for the playoffs because they think if this team is fully healthy, it can try and take the finals down. I think the Clippers wisely just want to make sure they're healthy for the playoffs because that's when it really matters. And their team is deep enough that they can get away with resting these guys as much as they do. But because of all the resting and inconsistency their two stars have, we're in this weird position where some of the backup players that would usually be going for a lot less actually have a little bit of an inflated price. But on the flip side, some players that you might think should be worth more are worth a little less because you never know when Kawhi and Paul George are going to play and ruin your chances at that player getting a high SoRare score. So all the players we're going to look at today actually kind of all fit in the same bucket where they're kind of reserve players, but at the same time, they might have a lot of opportunities to start and get a lot more minutes and usage. So I would just recommend with all these players, definitely be watching them. I don't think any of them are worth going out and buying right at this moment, but there will be ebbs and flows based upon Kawhi and Paul George's playing time. And when they start playing a little more consistently, it might be worth going back and looking at some of these players and seeing if you can snipe them for a good price. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at Norman Powell. Now, Norman Powell is sitting at around $12, which is kind of a similar theme we'll see with all these guys that we're talking about. They're all kind of sitting around the same price because they're all kind of in this weird situation. But we can see that in the last 10, he's averaging 20 points, which is pretty great for a $10 player. 3 rebounds, 2 assists, almost a steal per game. Love to see that. He has a cap of 27. And he's just an overall pretty solid player. If we go ahead and take a look at his price graph, I think the big thing obviously that stands out is this peak up to $28, $30. Yeah, 31 even. And we can see that this is probably going to happen because of Paul George and or Kawhi sitting out. I would guess that this happened because both of them were sitting out. Because, then Clipper players have to step up and cover. And as a result, they get a lot more minutes, a lot more usage. They're encouraged to shoot the ball a lot more. But if we take a look, we have his low at sitting around $5, and it's gone up since then, mostly because of this peak here and this peak here. I think a lot of people aren't trying to fire sell Norman Powell because, like we said, we don't know if Paul George and Kawhi are going to play every single game, and there are probably going to be pockets in the future where having his card is handy for a week. So, as a result, that's one reason I think he's worth being on this list is because potential for a spike like this, I think, is pretty decently high. Not because this team is trying to trade a bunch of players or tank or anything like that, but because their two key players that have the most minutes and the most usage are a little more inconsistent than a typical like star on an NBA team. So let's go ahead and take a look at his scores real quick. Now, he was recently injured, so let's keep that in mind. We're going to see this big gap here, but we can see he kind of picked up right where he started. We have a 31 and a 35 along with these two low games. And we can see before a lot of 20s, a lot of high 20s, and a lot of 30s, and he even dropped a 41 here. Now, this is why I think Norman Powell is a great pickup for long term. I do wish this cap was a little bit lower, and maybe it'll go a little bit lower once this 41 gets pushed out and he plays a little more, because we can see as a result this injury causes this 41 to be in there. So maybe his cap drops a little bit and we see the price kind of fluctuate with it. But once again, I think that's why he's just worth watching. He's going to have these back and forth games where sometimes he's putting up a dud, but in the same breath, in that same game week for SoRare, he also puts up a decent score that allows you to salvage the week with him. I overall really like Norman Powell. I especially like him for maybe a specialized lineup, like an all defensive lineup. I think Norman Powell is a really interesting play. He's someone that gets steals. He's someone that can get some blocks. He's going to grab some boards for you. I think he's very live for all defensive lineups, especially. All right, so the next player we're going to go ahead and take a look at is John Wall. So I think John Wall is an even more interesting case. As we can see, he's kind of around that similar price. I think we're going to see across this list. We can see he's averaging 12 points, 2, 5, and then not even a block or a steal every other game. He's got a cap of 22. And just overall, like looking at this card, this is not ideal. The cap is a little too high. He's not putting anything up that's too crazy that warrants, the potential for a ceiling game or anything like that. And his price seems a little bit overpriced for this combination of points and cap. So why are we putting him on this list? Well, I think the big reason is that while currently he's the backup point guard, I mean, he's John Wall. And there's, I think, ample opportunity for him to take over the starting role or just continue to get more minutes as he gets his legs underneath him. And I know that seems crazy to say when we're like over 20 games into the season, but you have to remember John Wall did not play for 2 years. So once again, similar to Kawhi and Paul George, the Clippers are not going to throw John Wall out there and run him ragged, because the whole point of them picking him up was to add depth when they make that playoff push, because they know he's a player that if he's even 70% of what he was like 5 years ago, he is such a key player for a playoff push. So as a result, I think John Wall is just a player you want to watch. We can look at his price chart real quick. We can see that there hasn't been a lot of verticality. We can see two little ones right here, but nothing that's that impressive. He did get up to 20 on that one here and up to 18 here. So there is some room to run in terms of like a quick profit, where if you picked him up today and Reggie Jackson's out for a couple games, or Kawhi gets announced that he's sitting, or Paul George, you might be able to flip for a quick buck. But ultimately, the reason I'm interested in John Wall is I just think there's a potential for him to have a crazy ceiling. And we really don't know until we get further into the season. And, he might not ever reach the pinnacle where he was at before. And we can see, looking at this season, he's put up a lot of 20s and 30s here. Nothing super impressive. It looks like he's not going to give you a game way above his cap. You're kind of getting what you pay for type of deal. He did have a 42 right here against the Spurs, which is encouraging to see. But I would hope to see a little more from John Wall as the season goes on. But this is why I think there's absolutely no rush to buy him, because I think he'll continue, at least short term, to put up games like this. I think people will get bored of him, or people will just give up on him. And, if he dips to $5 to $6 to $7, I think that's when he gets really, really interesting and is worth scooping up. So yeah, I really like John Wall. Very big picture, maybe even closer to a playoff push. So once again, definitely would not rush out and buy right now, but I think John Wall has a lot of potential and he is a more expensive dart throw. So that was John Wall. And the next player I want to take a look at is Terrence Mann. All right. So with Terrence Mann, we can see he's kind of similar to John Wall. Similar price, similar stats, more or less, identical cap. And I think in a lot of ways, he kind of fits that John Wall mold in the sense that, we're hoping he has that ceiling. But the big difference between Terrence Mann and John Wall is that I feel like Terrence Mann has kind of shown off that ceiling a bit and kind of given you an idea of where it is. And I think that reflects in his price graph even. We can see, he dips all the way down to 244 as circulation starts to come in. Then he skyrockets all the way up to like $16, $17. It looks like this guy overpaid way too much in an auction for him. And then we see some more verticality here after a tiny dip. We see some more here after a tiny dip. We see some more here. We see more here. Like there's so many, like another one, even a tiny little one here, even a little bit here, where we can see he goes up from 11 to like 12. But you can see how dense those dots are, means a lot of people are purchasing these through public offers to put into their lineup. So the main reason I have Terrence Mann on this list is because I think out of everyone on the Clippers, he benefits the most when Paul George and Kawhi are out. I mean, he's an incredible dynamic scorer. He can put up a pretty high SoRare score. And when his minutes and usage increases, he really takes advantage of it. If we take a look at his scores here, we can see that, he has some lower scores here, but we can see some high 20s, a 41, a 47, a 31. And these typically correspond to him just getting more time. If we look at this 47 here, we can see he got 33 minutes as opposed to this 20 here. We can see he got 20 minutes. So when Terrence Mann is given more minutes, he really takes advantage of it. And once again, if he was a backup on a different team where the superstars were a lot more consistent and there was no worries, maybe he wouldn't be worth picking up. Maybe he wouldn't be worth the dart throw because you're kind of banking almost on an injury more than anything. But I think in this situation, at $10, Terrence Mann is a pretty decent pickup. He's much less of a dart throw than John Wall. He's someone that will get opportunities throughout the season. The real question is, how many opportunities will he get? And that's what ultimately you have to that's what you have to determine as you're doing your own research and you're trying to figure out a price point that you are comfortable buying him at. I don't know if I would buy him necessarily at $10, but 10 is pretty close to what I feel comfortable with Terrence Mann. He's a card that's on my watch list, and I'm not compelled to go pick him up right away, but he's on the short list of someone that I would be interested in stashing for a couple lineups down the road. So I think I'm going to end the video there. I do want to quickly point out that I do think Reggie Jackson and Luke Kennard kind of both fit this mold as well. Players that can get a lot of extra minutes and usage, specifically with Kawhi and Paul George possibly missing games. And Reggie Jackson and Kennard have both shown that they have a pretty impressive ceiling that would be very valuable for lineups week to week. And the other thing is all these players are kind of sitting at more or less the same price. It's kind of crazy. Besides Zubac, Kawhi, and Paul George, you have Powell, Batum, Marcus Morris, John Wall, Terrence Mann, Reggie Jackson, Kennard. They're all sitting at like $10. And I think they're all more or less interesting plays that could really pop off if the right people are sitting and they get more minutes and usage. So we went over the three that I'm the most interested in, but I definitely encourage you to watch their entire roster on SoRare because there is a lot of variation with these players in terms of price and performance. And that is how you get an edge, is just by watching it, trying to snipe low and then either playing him in that lineup when the opportunity appears, or selling him and securing profits. So thank you so much for taking the time to check out this video. If you haven't already, just make sure to hit that like button and the subscribe button. Like I said, it's something really easy that you can do that really helps me out a lot. If this is your first time checking out SoRare Steals, make sure to check out the other videos where we take a look at another NBA team and pick out a couple of players that we think are undervalued. Thanks once again for taking the time to watch this video, and join me next time as we take a look at the SoRare Steals on the Los Angeles Lakers. Please clap.